My grandfather, Alan Price, I never met him. He was killed when my mother was 4 years old at the Battle of Menin Road in 1917. Well, I would imagine it's the usual dreaded telegram at the door, you know. That would have been the way people found out how their loved ones were lost, you know, the dreaded probably dispatch rider or something coming to the door, or, you know, when he arrived you knew it was probably going to be bad news. She was too young to have much in the way of memories. It was Raymond was the youngest, then David, Bill, and there was Doris, my mother. My auntie Wynne was her sister, and Sissy, Auntie Sissy, who was the oldest one. My mum, who was his daughter, she was a really very talkative, very friendly, very busy sort of person, you know. She loved people, she really loved people, you know, so she had to have people around. I thought she got depressed. My mum would have worked till she dropped, really, and she loved working. And even when she was later on in life, she used to go and fruit picking and this and that. They had a fair bit of go in them, so you know, they were definitely not work shy, and I think I've sort of inherited the Price gene probably. My grandmother kept the toll house at Home Lacey, the bridge toll house, and then she eventually went as housekeeper to this other guy, which I think she sort of lived with him for most of her life until she died, really. I used to see her fairly regular. I can remember her quite well. She was quite a frail sort of small woman, which my mother was. My mother was quite a tot. But no, she never talked much about him, not to us, but then we were all kids, so she probably wouldn't. My parents courted for, I think it was 13 years or something, and then war broke out. And my dad obviously wasn't a very keen marrier, so his hand was forced, you could say, because the single women were sent to the factories or in Coventry in a way, whereas the married women were employed locally on the Rotherwas munitions factory, which is now an industrial estate, but it was, she worked there in what they called the fill, which was filling the shells with whatever, gunpowder or whatever it needed. And we used to have on our mantelpiece at home, we used to have the cases, the brass cases of the various sizes of shells that she used to fill. When you're kids, you don't really sort of take a lot of interest in all that sort of stuff and what your parents did. You were sort of full of your own life, and our life was up in the woods where we live now, and it was all about building dens and playing cowboys and Indians and fishing and shooting and all that sort of stuff. It's only when you get older and all these things start to interest you, and you wish you had asked questions early on when these folks were around, because now the answers are not there because they're all gone. You know, when you're a kid you think there's all the time in the world, but you get to 70 and you think, crikey, what happened there? You know? And of course you start looking back on your grandfather who died 100 years ago. It doesn't seem that long ago. Some of the young people that died would have been 18, 19, 20, so at least he'd had a bit of life, whereas some of them had hardly any life. It's something that should be remembered by everybody, really, because he's such a catastrophic thing to happen, really, in the first place. And, you know, it needs to be kept alive so children realise what happened, so they make a big effort so that it never happens again.